All right, let's get this show kicked off. We got the man, the legend, Jeff Peeples, Sentinel Safety here. Dude, known you for a long time on LinkedIn. Is this our first time meeting in person?
First time in person, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Feel like I know you. I guess that's just the modern world. Like, I just have all my online friends, strangers, summoning strangers off the internet.
No actual in-person meetings.
Yeah.
Keep it digital, baby.
Yeah. But dude, super glad that you're here. And you know, I've followed you for a long time. We were just talking. You said that you're between Midland and Houston, looking for a place in the hill country.
Eventually,
which don't blame me, man.
One piece of land.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I grew up in the country, and I'm at that age where you start to float back to where you came from. I'm floating back to I need some space, man.
I'm there with you, dude. Every time I go out to my mom and stepdad, they live outside of Marble Falls. I'm just like, got a ranch out there. I'm like,
perfect.
This is, especially with like, it's going to sound like super millennial of me, but like now with Starlink, and it's like, oh, I can actually like have connectivity out at the ranch too. Yeah. Like I know some people are like, oh no, you want to be disconnected. I'm like,
I have it in my RV. You can get it anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at. You've got the internet, and it's high speed too.
It's a fun time to be living. But dude, tell me real quick, just get this conversation kicked off, who you are, what your company is, and then we'll dive in from there.
Well, I'm Jeff Peeples. I founded Sentinel Safety about 3 years ago. Been in the the safety industry for quite a while. Started with Ringer's gloves about, I think it's about 12 years ago now.
Okay.
Fell into that. I had spent my 20s between a couple of deployments. And so I never really got a track on a career in my 20s. So I kept getting knocked off the block a little bit and moving around quite a bit.
So you're on some deployments and Tell me about that.
I was in the Army for 11
Army.
total years. And
cool.
So I saw a couple of deployments that...
Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Georgia.
In Georgia. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I found my way to Texas by Texas Tech.
Okay.
So I went to Texas Tech, and so which was wonderful. I've about 3 years ago, I passed living more of my life in Texas than Georgia. So I had to give everybody the bad news. I'm officially a Texan.
Officially Texan now.
I'm officially Texan. So I've been there longer than I was in Georgia. But I started working for a company out in Scottsdale, Arizona that did finished lubricants like engine oils, hydraulic oils, things like that. And got recruited pretty heavily by a company here in town called O'Rourke Petroleum. Yeah, my accent kills my ability to pronounce that word.
I almost want to make you say it again.
It's like there's rocks in it's Georgia. There's rocks in my mouth, as people used to tell me. But I worked for them for a while, and I'd gotten settled in there. I had an amazing boss and mentor. By the way, who you should, if you haven't already, talk to him. Mush Khan. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Him.
Mush.
Yeah. Okay. I'd say that.
Yeah.
So I had the pleasure of working directly under him.
He's fucking amazing.
He's amazing.
Dude, him and I recorded a banger podcast sometime last year where like I could have talked for hours, but I love that dude.
He's my mentor in business in every way. And so I worked with him under him there at O'Rourke, and then he left all of a sudden, and I was devastated out of my mind, and I was actually had a martini lunch because of it, because I'd finally gotten in a place where felt like something was happening for me, and I was comfortable. I was making pretty good money, and then I get the email from he sends to everybody, I'm quitting, I'm gone, and then he calls me that afternoon. He goes, hey, I can't talk to you right now. Hang tight. I got something brewing, that'll eventually come about. And that ended up, about 3 months later, I get a phone call. Hey, I'm into this company. I'm running this company, Ringer's Gloves, and I need an international sales coordinator. And so I was like, okay, I get to travel the world and work for you again.
Yeah.
He goes, the only thing is you got to be in Houston. I said, I'll be there in 2 weeks. I was living in Dallas at the time. I was like, I'll be there in 2 weeks. So I got there. I traveled around the world. I've been to most every oil basin in the world through that. And it was really, really good to see, but did not a lot of time in the United States.
Yeah.
And
so for those that don't know, Ringer's Gloves, I don't know if they existed before the impact gloves or if that was like their thing.
I don't know if they were the very first ones, but they were probably the one that made it a thing.
No, they're definitely the ones.
Exxon.
Yeah, definitely the ones that made it a thing, because I come from a time where like I still like cotton gloves. Dude.
Sure.
I love cotton gloves, but back then like there was only cotton gloves. You didn't have any there were no impact gloves, and then Ringer just came on the scene, and it's like overnight.
Yeah.
Took over.
They worked with Exxon on a glove, on a type of glove, an impact glove, and and I think it was Key Energy as well was one of the first ones, and they put it out there, and the guys didn't like them because it doesn't, there's obviously the dexterity is not there as a cotton glove, right? And so
That's what was crazy is like, it's like I couldn't feel, it's like you can't feel anything.
you can't, and so
yeah.
and so that what they realized though is that it cut injuries by 80%.
Yeah.
And that's expensive.
Yeah.
And that's a big savings deal. So that's kind of as the operators, they kind of set the standard for the sites, and then obviously that bounced down to everybody that worked on the sites. And So that was a wonderful position for me for a long time. Ringers eventually sold to a capital group, which I wasn't all that fond of working with.
Yeah.
And so I took basically a contract with another company for a year to help them set up some international logistics. And then after that, I co-founded Tomahawk Safety.
Okay.
With another capital group, and it was just gloves at the time. And we did okay, but we came out about less than a year before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so blessed in that the company was full of guys who had been in the medical world their entire life. This industrial world was a new thing for them.
Yeah.
And so I was blessed to be able to be with them because they pivoted pretty quickly. We were able to pivot pretty quickly. We were making gowns and things like that and selling all this stuff. So we did well. After that, they wanted to stay medical, and which worked for me because I wanted to be on my own. I was ready to be. Yeah. I had my own idea of in capital, VCs, the way they work anyway, they're not conducive to startups. They're only conducive to businesses that are established and coming in and wiping the books clean and knocking expenses out. They're not really good at growing a brand whatsoever. Yeah. And so I knew what needed to be done to grow a brand. So I separated from that company and went down to Mexico for a few months and worked in archaeology and lost some weight and planned Sentinel of what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I had an idea that, or a strong belief that I could do better. I saw what was in the market, and I believed I could do better. So that was the entire plan behind.
So, what is Sentinel? What do you guys do?
So we are a manufacturer. We do not everything. Currently, it's still just me, but I design all of my own products. Yeah. And so do we design fire-resistant clothing on every different thing you can think of. Yeah. The last thing that I was missing were blue jeans, and I have my final sample coming this week to approve. So we'll be even having those probably in October, November. Nice. So
dude, this is actually like extremely complex. I'm not going to get into how I know this, but like I tried an athleisure brand like back in 2017. I was going down to Mexico, down to factories and trying to design and manufacture clothes. And I got so much appreciation for how complex this is. And so I have a lot of respect that you guys are manufacturing these FRs. Let's talk about the product line real quick, because you said you got the design done for the jeans.
The jeans.
You just start off with coveralls.
Started out with just typical. The shirts and coverall are the same material, right? Yeah. It's just a different build. And what I saw in the market was 40-year-old technology. They were essentially, what you'd see out there, and if people have oil and gas know what I'm talking about, it's either a cotton product or what they call 8812. Which is a cotton polyester blend. Okay. And so those things obviously aren't fire resistant on its own. So those products are made fire resistant by introducing chemicals. And those chemicals, they'll give you, when it's new, it'll give you a test of pass. They'll give you an ATPV rating. However, there is no guarantee, and depending on the quality of manufacturing, how long does it stay fire resistant?
Every field hand knows that.
Everybody knows
every
that.
field hand knows that.
It's the worst kept secret on earth.
After 2 washes, this Teflon spray essentially that's put on there, it's gone. So they're not even FR.
So when I saw that was an opportunity. I was like, okay, well, how can I fix that part? The other part is how hot is it in West Texas and South Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana?
Hot as fuck.
It's hot as hell, man. I was wondering if I could cuss on this podcast. So I'm glad you did it first. On, man. I'm glad you did it first. I don't have to hold back. But yeah, I saw that these products, they were so heavy, they were so cumbersome, and I talk to safety people all the time. I hear about heat exhaustion. Most of that shit they don't even know about because the guys are not telling them.
They don't tell them.
They don't tell them because they're scared they'll get in trouble.
So I started roughnecking in 2010. Okay, I always feel like I was the last of the old generation. I tell everyone my second day on a rig, I've got videos of it. Everyone on the rig is wearing shorts, no shirts, no hard hats, flip flops. We had a 30-pack of beer out there. Like things were different. And, they started mandating coveralls like around 2011 or 12,
Gosh, I didn't know it was that recent.
sometime around then. And like, dude, we were not happy about it because it's hot out there, man. It's hot and you couldn't breathe. And
It's miserable.
you fall out from heat exhaustion on a rig move because of coveralls, which are intended to keep you safe. And so just huge misalignment of incentives and operations. And so I always found that interesting.
Yeah, I mean they're hot as hell. I mean, it's when you put a chemical into a fiber, all you're doing is making it denser. All you're doing is adding. And so it's the reason in the military you polish your shoes wasn't to make them shine, it was to make them waterproof.
Yeah.
The same thing there. If something's waterproof, it's also windproof, right? It's also airproof. So that's what was happening to these things. And they were in this technology had been around since the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, nobody's made something different. So there's two things I can fix there. Gloves, fine. I made gloves. I think I make the best fitting gloves there possibly is. And that was my entire goal of gloves, was make them really great fitting and cover the fingertips because that's where the injuries occur. But in the same thing with this one, if I can solve problems for these people, I can have a successful product. So I worked with a company that's it's not out of India or China, it's out of Europe, but and wrote a spec for a product, a fiber that would be inherently fire resistant. The fiber itself would be fire resistant. So there is no chemical introduction to our products.
Yeah.
I sold it to, I sold 3,600 shirts, winter shirts or summer shirts last year to a big oil and gas company. And they called me the day they got them and said, "Are these fire resistant?" I went, "Yeah, of course." Like, well, we didn't smell when it opened the package. I'm like, "Well, that's because it's inherently FR. There's no chemicals there." Yeah. So I figured I could fix that. And I was like, okay, if you're going to pay a lot for something, at least get what you're paying for, and have it that for the life of the product. And the other thing was the cool part. So I manufacture in South Africa, and the manufacturer that I use and partnered with on this, these guys have been in the textile business for almost 100 years, their family. And they, when I was in the Middle East, I'd heard about them. And when I was in Norway, I heard about them.
Wow. So
this is two people I'd heard of and good things about. And then when I was searching out a manufacturing facility to produce these things for me, a contact of mine in Thailand. Why don't you call these guys? And I'm, okay.
Third time.
That's the third time. That's something. So what they're the best at is weaving products. They're incredible at it. And so they are able to make a product. They're able to weave it tight, like where it's built really tough and won't break, but also open where it can breathe. So I started out with two product lines. One was the Flame Guard is the product line. Flame Guard Flex, which is like a 5.6 ounce Cat 2 product, inherently FR. And then a light one that's also Cat 2. It's called the Zephyr. The Zephyr is better than softer, lighter than anything you've ever seen. You'll see it in here. We're going to look it over after this. But, but it's light. It's a 4.9 ounce Cat 2 product.
Okay.
4.9 ounce.
Yeah.
Which is really, really light. And so those are the two primary ones.
So one, I like that. I like how you thought about solving this, because there's a term that tech bros like using, and it's like, it's first principles. But looking at like what FRs were historically, hey, it's this cotton mix, and then we're going to spray on chemicals to make it FR. But thinking about it like from first principles is like, why don't we make the actual material inherently FR? Is this proprietary?
Yes.
Okay. So you can't talk to me about it, but that's just like, a lot of people have been proponents of like,
to me.
Yeah.
I can talk to you about it.
Yeah. I mean, just like, a lot of people have always talked about, like using hemp and different fabrics and things like this, because there's just natural resistivity to fire. And so I love, you can talk to me however much you want about the actual fabric itself, but that's what I think is cool. It's like thinking about it in a new way of, hey, we're not gonna think of a new chemical to spray on. It's like, let's make the actual garment itself fire resistant.
And let's see if we can prevent some heat injuries, right?
Yeah.
You know, the strokes and the not so much the strokes, but the heat exhaustion.
Dude, I fell out once from heat exhaustion on a rig move.
Think about all those rig guys, especially when you were young.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, you know, I'm not saying you, but most of them live life pretty by the seat of their ass, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are really out there drinking at night and then coming and drinking monsters and shit like that.
The comment that you made earlier about like it not being reported, you think that when I fell out from heat exhaustion it was reported? No, I got in someone's pickup truck and they drove me home.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a real thing. And, you know, also it's like, I didn't truly realize what hydration is until probably within the last 2 years. But, you know, we're always like, oh, drink water. Well, it's not just about drinking water. You need lots of sodium.
Yeah.
You need lots of potassium, full spectrum of your electrolytes. Drinking a Gatorade's not going to help you. And so even like when you're out there, it's hard, even if you're being mindful, it's hard to stay hydrated.
And that's why we have tactical hydration coming out next year.
Yeah. There you go.
I've already got it. I've already got it in the bank, man. It's going to be cool as hell. It's going to, the little packs they come in are going to look like Army canteens.
Nice.
And everything's military themes, like bazooka blueberry.
Hey, can we make? I've got this idea, and I'll never pursue it, but I wanted to start a canned water called Frack Water. Can we name one of them Frack Water?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do some kind of flavor.
This can be my creative outlet for hydration because I'm really big on that.
You wouldn't believe how much electrolyte powder is sold into the oil field now.
Oh yeah,
and also, which kills me and makes me giggle every time I think about it, but popsicles.
Yeah.
Was that around when you were there?
Well, you know, it's funny. Okay.
Electrolyte popsicles.
Yeah. Popsicles are around, but they weren't electrolytes. We always just used to get the freeze pops just because like they're nice to have
in the heat.
Yeah, when you're hot. So there was no electrolytes. It was just
but now they have them electrolytes. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you know, I think that there's a lot of, when it comes to safety in the oil field, there's a lot of safety theater.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that are done in the name of safety, but if you actually think about it from a logical perspective, like it doesn't make sense. You know, like I used to get into it all the time with safety guys. But you need to be clean shaven. I'm like, okay, why do I need to be clean shaven? So that you can pass a fit test for a SCBA unit. Yeah. I'm like,
Same
okay,
as
cool.
All
right, so where are the SCBA units on location? There were none.
Yeah.
It's like, why the fuck do I got to shave? Like,
don't even have them.
Yeah, you don't even have them.
Yeah.
So like, there's a lot of safety theater, and sometimes coveralls kind of felt like this to a degree because it's like, but we wash these things every day. They are no longer fire resistant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So the benefit's not there, and all we're doing is putting on garments that increase probably exponentially the risk of heat stroke or heat exhaustion. And so the logic of preparing for an outlier event and taking increased risks on something that could happen every day didn't make a lot of sense. But that doesn't mean that, hey, is there a different way to look at from a technological perspective of how we can make coveralls that solve for both of those? Yeah. Hey, want you to be protected in a flash event or a fire, but also want it to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
So that day in and day out, you can do your job without, killing yourself.
You know, and one thing people don't, you know, I think people have a misunderstanding about what it's meant to do. It's not meant like this thing will burn.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to, I mean, if it won't burn, if I built you something that wouldn't burn, you would die in 10 minutes wearing it. Like that's what firefighters wear, right?
Yeah.
And they can't wear that for very long. What it's essentially doing is like what you call a flash fire.
Yeah.
3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it buys you.
Yeah.
And that should be enough if you can get out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're on fire, you can do a lot in 3 seconds, you know? And so, but that's essentially what it's meant to do. So it's not, people think it's, you know, going to completely protect you from being burned. It's like, I tell them about the gloves either. The glove is not there to prevent injury. It's there to keep your fingers on your hand. You're still going to get hurt. If the 50-pound something comes down 4 foot, it's gonna break your finger.
My second month on a rig, saw my motorman get his 2 fingers ripped off in the drawworks, and like, guess impact gloves wouldn't have stopped that. Nothing would have. You know, it is what it is. They got ripped off, and so, but it's about mitigating, right?
Yeah, it's make the injury less than what it would have been.
And so let's talk about I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an operator, so I like digging into like how you've built this, how you've done it. You already got into that a little bit of how you located the manufacturer
Yeah.
by word of mouth. You hear from 3 people like,
Yeah.
okay, this is serious. You go down there, you build a relationship with them. Sounds
Yeah.
like they're doing a great job.
Oh yeah.
You just talked about having an order of 3,000 shirts. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a moving a lot of product right
Yeah.
there.
It's
And so, let's talk about one challenges, because like I said, like it's just crazy. Like when you're designing clothes, like you don't realize, like, one, there is no standardization of like what is a large. You know,
yeah.
there's so much.
Well, I've got a funny story on that one. So I don't think they mind me telling, but my biggest customer out there is ProPetro.
Okay.
All right. They were the first customer.
Shout out to Sam Sledge. I was just hanging out with him a couple of days ago. So love ProPetro.
I sat down with him about a month ago for an hour and talked to him. He's really one of
I want to give Sam a shout out right now because I was I was talking to him and we're talking about Collide and what we're building with AI. And Sam was like, "Oh, you guys are building Perplexity for oil and gas." I was like, "Dude, thank you." I was like,
"He's smart."
I was like, "No one knows what Perplexity is." Yeah, he knew what Perplexity was. Guy. Yeah, he's sharp.
I mean, he didn't get to be a CEO at 35 or something for no reason. Yeah, yeah. And so, I didn't really focus when I was designing the product on what sizes are, right? And so what we figured out, and I guess what my engineer in South Africa figured out pretty quickly, is that we're fat as hell. And he couldn't believe himself. Like he's got to be kidding me, Jeff. Is it real? I was like, yes. Apparently, we'd made these sizes, and he's used to making product for slim Middle Eastern guys, slim North European guys. Never made them for fat Americans. I mean,
we got some meat on us over
here. Dude, he said, so we tried. Not quite. So finally they said, "Hey, look, this is the sizing we like." I said about him. He goes, we looked at it. It was 2 full sizes ahead of where he was on what he thought the sizing should be. So, I've come to realize that when you go to, like, for example, when companies buy direct, their sizes are bigger. And what you see on the rack tends to be a little bit more normal. Like from Ariat and Tyndall and those types of companies, it tends to be more of a normal sizing.
Yeah.
But the ones you see out, I mean, I couldn't. I put on an XL and it was like, it's big. Like it was, I couldn't believe the difference in sizing. Like some of the, I won't mention competitors very much, but for obvious reasons. But I couldn't believe how big the sizing was, and it was just, so that's one way we had to adjust.
Also, anytime I'd order a cover, I was just like, dude, I don't know what size I'm at. And then they come in like 36s or 42s. And it's like, what kind of, it was just hard to know.
I didn't really, obviously our sizes correlate to 36, 42 and things like that. But really it's the numbers. We just do sizes plus either tall, like we'll do XL tall or things like that. We'll
that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, we expand it that way, and that pretty much covers everybody.
Yeah,
there's I've sold plenty of 7Xs.
Yeah,
and those are absolute monsters.
Yeah,
and another sizing issue I've had too is, I had sold gloves internationally, right, and so I never sold gloves in the United States, and there has been a change, and you have to learn people are different, from where they're from in the world, their size is different, right? Hand size is different. And what I kept getting feedback, they're a little short fingered or a little long fingered, excuse me. And also, my original stocking order was much heavier on bigger sizes than I ever sold.
Yeah.
And because of the amount of Hispanic guys in the field now, they're number one, they're smaller than as far as average size, their hands, but their hands are built differently.
Yeah.
And you learn about ergonomics of bone structure and things like that.
That is crazy.
Their hands are wider.
Yeah.
But their fingers are shorter.
Yeah, like all Mexican dudes I know, it's like they got short, stubby fingers and wide hands,
powerful hands. But it's shaped differently than ours, right? So so I had that little snafu. So
those are like all the weird things that you don't think about, right? And then inventory management, and what do you keep in stock, what do you not, and it's just like there's so many things that go into that, and so. talk to me a little bit about, I hear like a complaint all the time from like women, for example,
Mhm.
like women hate that, there's not FRs that are
Sure.
cut for women, right? And so it makes them look bulky and manly out in the field. And so I always saw an opportunity there
Mhm.
to create FRs for that demographic,
Mhm.
which just kind of goes back into like, people are different and like,
Yeah.
and require different things. How do you think about, not only, um, providing FRs that have a new technological advantage, but also, creating lines or product lines that work for everyone, whether it's male or female?
So shortly after I got started, I had a chance meeting with David Reed.
Hmm.
You probably know who
Yeah.
he is, the
David
VP
Reed
of
at NOV.
yeah,
Yeah.
VP of marketing and technology at
Yeah.
NOV. And he had spoken to me about the products, and he's like, "Man, I wish we need to get organized and move into the 21st century here." And he sat down and he goes, "Look, we're going to be a part of a fashion show." And he goes, "I'd like you to develop some products for me. I'd like you to start an R&D process with us to try to develop some products for us." And I was like, "Okay." Well, I sat down with their group, and what they had wanted two things. They'd wanted a much better jacket. And I, at that point in time, I knew I was going to make a jacket,
Hmm.
but I didn't know it was going to be on, I didn't know my timeline was going to be pushed up that much.
Yeah.
And so I started working on it. And also they wanted a female coverall.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, well, everything I've ever made, everything I've ever designed has been based on feedback, because I never worked in the oil field. I tell people that up front. I said, I've never been out here.
Hmm.
So you're going to have to tell me everything I need to know.
Yeah.
And so I said, I need to meet with females that
Yeah.
wear this stuff. And so we had a couple of girls that came in. They were young go-getters. And so I told them, I said, look, I want to meet with you, and I want you to wear your coverall that they give you.
Hmm.
And because I know there were complaints, I just didn't know what they
Yeah.
were.
What the complaints were.
I didn't know
yeah.
what it was. So it came in and immediately. I almost laughed, because sure enough, coveralls are made for the male body.
Yeah.
And so first thing you'll notice on women wearing them is that the crotch is almost down to the knees.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and look, women aren't the only ones that actually care about what they look like. Men
Yeah.
do too. That's
Yeah.
why they buy Ariat at an expensive price.
Yeah.
Right. And so, they look goofy in these things. And so the crotch was really too big. So the arms were always too long.
Yeah.
And so they had these problems. It was straight lined. Women
Yeah.
are not straight. Women are curvy.
It's not even a fashion thing. It is utility, because like the limbs are too long and like,
Or think about if you got to move to the side really fast and it hits that, you're going to trip.
snags. Yeah.
That's a safety problem.
Yeah.
So what we did was it was for that. It was for women, but also we didn't put this in the fashion show here, but I developed one for what we call a modest, and it was for Muslim women.
Mm-hmm.
So it included interior of the arm to cover the hand. So like a piece would be attached to the coverall, completely cover the hand,
Yeah.
completely cover the head.
Yeah.
And it also, because I sat down with a Muslim girl that worked there, and I was like,
Mhm.
well, what are we trying to do? Like,
Yeah.
what is the point? She goes, not show curves. I said,
Yeah.
okay, fair enough. And so we built the coverall, but on the outside of the coverall, it comes across like a dress.
Oh yeah.
So like a skirt, more
Yeah.
or less. And I said, the only thing I can do, it's a safety clothing. It can't be too loose. So I can't prevent curves from showing that much, because then it becomes, if it's too baggy, it becomes a safety issue, kind of like you just
Yeah.
mentioned. So with that product, what we did was we looked at how can we solve the problems they have. So what we did was we raised the waist up quite a few inches. So to bring the crotch up to where it's manageable and to where it's more safer and the fits proper. We raised the arms up, we widened the hips and narrowed the legs. So women are not straight line like men. They're shaped like women. They're big,
Yeah.
much more wider in the hips, right?
Yeah.
So we did that, and I guess roundabout way, I found out one complaint is, to people that aren't in the oil and gas, a coverall is a onesie, and going number one for men is fine, but number two is terrible. You got to get completely out of it to go number two. Well, you don't go number two that much, but you go number one in a 12-hour shift quite a few times.
Yeah.
And a woman has to get completely out of
do
that
that.
every single time. So
Yeah.
what we did was we put a Velcro strap around the back of the pants part, of the lower part of the coverall, and it it'll tighten up like a belt just in the back, so
Yeah.
so they can put it as tight as they want to or as loose as they want to, and it zips down the side so that it effectively behaves like a pair of pants.
Yeah.
So they can now use the restroom.
Like always, like I like coveralls for the convenience. Like it's so easy just to like
slide on
a pair of coveralls. But then it's like, oh well, like I also like wearing jeans and a shirt too, because like, you know, for those types of
the market is moving towards the jeans and the shirt.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Like you saw a clear trend where people just started wearing jeans and
definitely
shirt.
moving towards that.
Like it started off like in the field, it started off like company men only would wear jeans and shirts.
Yeah.
And like all your field hands would be in coveralls, but then like everyone started realizing like how much better jeans and shirts were.
And it's also better if, you know, if you got to go into town to lunch or something, you're not wearing
Yeah.
coveralls, right? But that, I mean, if anybody wants to see it, that's on our website. It's under products and it says female FR.
Cool.
You go straight to it. Also have shirts as well.
Yeah. And this is all super, super interesting stuff. So when you started this, like I'm thinking now from like a marketing and distribution, like how did you think about that? Like how did you think, okay, you know, I've created what I believe is a superior technological product compared to regular FRs. So I believe I have a better product. Now you got to go get it in the hands of people and companies, right? And so how'd you think about this and how'd you do that?
So since the beginning, I've operated pretty strictly on my own capital. I'm not bringing anyone in for anything like that. So most of my growth had to come pretty organically.
Yeah.
So not a ton of it was spent in marketing, and I got incredibly blessed very early on. And then I got 2 big accounts that were pouring FR, and that was Schlumberger and ProPetro. So it was just a big. It took. I mean, people don't understand manufacturing. You know, you spend $1, you don't get it back for 9 months.
But you talk about the cash conversion cycle. Yeah.
It is.
I was about to talk about cash flow. Have you ever read the book Shoe Dog by Phil Knight?
I have, yeah.
Dude, awesome book. But like what I love about that is like, you know, he's building Nike back in the 60s, 70s, or whenever it was. And like there were no investors or VCs. And he's just growing this shoe brand within cash flow. And like the cash crunches can kill you, right? And even if like, getting all these orders, well, it's like it takes a long time to get that money back. And sometimes like, you know, manufacturers can be good and like you can kind of leverage, you know, their balance sheet a little bit and getting orders out, but still like you have to get like kind of creative with it at times, right? And so,
you have to get really creative, you know, because I spent every last dime I had into this.
I love it.
If this didn't pass, I was done. Broke as hell. But you know what? It's what I learned. And anybody asked me the question since, I'm like, that's the only way you're going to win. If there's no other way, there's no other option.
Burn the boats.
You got to do it. I mean, I know that's so cliche, but you got to do it.
I never tell anyone to do it. Like I never tell anyone because like I'm not going to take that responsibility, but like it's what I did.
Yes, what you got to do. I was like, look, if you fail, start over.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the United States in 2024.
Yeah.
There's a million different ways. I mean, it's so simple.
I love
it's difficult, but it's simple.
Yeah. I mean, just being able to bootstrap it, build it within cash flow. You know, for like, I know I keep coming back to this, but just the fact that you designed and got a process in manufacturing is like, that's a feat in itself and costs a lot of money to get to that point. Right. Yeah. And so, you know, I feel like once you're at that point and you're fulfilling orders, like those are probably the easy problems to figure out. But getting off the ground and getting started is huge accomplishment. And I'm telling you that because I respect it. And so, and you hear these deals, it's like, oh yeah, we got ProPetro and Schlumberger, but then it's like, those are big orders, like 3,600 of anything is a lot to get out the door, right?
Yeah.
So.
It's, you know, and I keep trying to make, like I said, my goal is to get, you know, at the beginning was to get ProPetro and Schlumberger to be a smaller percentage of my business. Yeah. You know, I was like, okay, I don't want to lose any of their business, but I was like, I got to gain it because, you know, you can't be dependent too much on one company. Sure. So I've grown a lot since then and spread out to now 27 different companies.
That's awesome, man.
That are buying. But to you know, go back to your question about, you know, how am I getting the product out there? Well, so, you know, I haven't spent yet a lot of money on the marketing side or the digital side. I will be doing that. What I saw as a more immediate need was to be present physically in the largest oil field in the world. And so the reason why is because, the way the largest companies order, they'll order stock and they'll keep it in their own warehouses on the shelf. Well, that's easy for a company like me to do. I just have a warehouse. I don't even own the warehouse. I 3PL it currently. And so, but
3PL is third party logistics, right?
Third party logistics. So but I'd say the majority, the way they buy or the way they get their FRs in the oil field is that there's a lot of stores out there, and the ones you'd hear about is Cavender's, Boot City, and all these different Boot Barn, all these different places like that. Well, a new worker comes on. Hey, go down to Cavender's and get what you need. Put it on our account. Okay, that's almost probably most of the companies between 1 and 800 employees. That's how they purchase.
Yeah.
I was completely out of the market on that. I had no opportunity to get involved in these companies.
Yeah.
The other bit of them, which is by far the worst way, and I don't mind saying it, is that doing it through like a washing service where they're providing.
Yeah.
And that's just, somehow these companies keep convincing procurement people to get in these deals. But if you're out there thinking about it right now, please stop. It's a hellhole. I mean, I know one big company, and it's a legal thing, but one big company spent a lot of money to get out of their deal because it was such a bad deal. So don't ever get involved in that, because you're getting cheap stuff from China, which has about a 25% chance of ever being FR when it was new to begin with. And then, it's just the service and the whatever price savings you thought you were going to get, you're not.
Yeah.
It's an absolute a hellhole of a deal. But I wanted to be involved in that. So I think September 21st, I'm pretty much come down as that's my opening day.
So open up the storefront?
I've already got the storefront set, man, and I'm going to blow it the hell out.
Is this in Midland?
It's in Midland.
Okay, cool.
And I've got my I'm going to be burning FR.
Yeah.
I've got a flamethrower.
Oh, we got a flamethrower.
I'm gonna every hour I'm gonna burn it. I've already talked to the fire department.
Yeah.
And they said they're gonna give me a permit and they're gonna set 2 guys down there. Yeah. Hell yeah. So I'm gonna burn it and say, look, this is what a normal one looks like, and this is what mine looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. See the difference? And the other thing I'm doing that I've made it immediate. I found for lack of a better term, Mr. Sentinel. I was looking for, we were kind of mentioning earlier, we were looking for who are the influencers in oil and gas. And I was sitting with a guy in Midland, and he was like, dude, you need to go talk to, and I haven't even announced this publicly at all that this is happening, but we've already come to an agreement on it. But his handle was Fluid Levels. Have you seen this guy?
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
Oh, God almighty. I looked at immediately, I sent him a message on LinkedIn, and I said, hey, and when I went to his name, I saw Texas Tech, and I was like, okay. I sent him a message. I was like, I went to Texas Tech. I'm the only veteran and Texas-owned FR manufacturer out there. I said, you were meant to represent my products. And he goes, well, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, that's a hell of a pitch or something. Let's have lunch.
Yeah.
And I sat down with him and I saw just how damn big he was. Yeah. And it was Joseph Norman. I sat down with him and I said,
just as former football player.
Well, I sat back in my chair and I looked at him. I said, Joe Norman, the linebacker at Tech? And he just laughed and said, yeah. And I was like, man, I said, you're not walking away from this table without a deal with me to work with. I said, I'm a fan, man. I was a fan when you were on the football field. And, people don't know him. I mean, his brother John and his other brother, I think Josh, all football stars.
Yeah. Joseph's great dude.
Great man.
Love the guy. Love his content. I think he's a perfect representation for West Texas oil field. And it's pretty funny. Him and I were just on a call the other day, and we're going to work together on some things on Collide too. So I love that he's being able to leverage what he's doing with content to work with these other brands.
For sure, man. Sick. He's got, millions of impressions online. He's got 140,000 followers on TikTok alone. Yeah. So it's like, this is the perfect situation for me, because I'm looking for somebody that's fit, checks all the checks, right? And he does, man. Yeah. And so I built him he's got dreads, he wears these glasses. And so, my logo is a silver Spartan helmet, right? Yeah. So I said, this is your, you're going to help me market you're going to work with me to market my FR. But I said, I want to sell gear with you too. Yeah. So I had this thing built out where it's the Spartan helmet. Yeah. With a hard hat with his company's name on it, dreadlocks coming down the side, and the glasses.
Yeah. got the Joseph treatment on it.
Hell yes,
that's sick.
And I was like, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, he's a great so that's my first array into this. I think it'll be wonderful.
What a fun time to be working in oil and gas. I mean, just like these partnerships and like creating content. Like, dude, when I started creating content, we were talking about this before we got on the podcast back in 2016. People are like, what the fuck are you doing? Now you got
just 8 years ago.
Now you got the Josephs of the world, and then it's just fucking cool, man. And so I love hearing that stuff like that's happening. So if anyone wants to check out your FRs and get more information on them, what's y'all's website? Where can they find y'all?
SentinelSafety.com.
SentinelSafety.com. We'll leave a link to that in the show notes. And yeah, make sure to get over to Collide too. This video will be on Collide. So if you want to search through the transcript using our AI search engine, make sure to get over there and do that. And look out for Jeff and Sentinel Safety. This is exciting stuff, man. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, man. Pleasure.